social worker, I advocate for people's human rights and support people to make decisions about their own care. I spend a lot of time in my professional life supporting people to make decisions and advocating for them when other professionals agree with the person. I'm telling you this before I tell my birth story, as I feel that no health professional advocated for me. I also feel that they stopped my husband being able to advocate for me. My experience of giving birth and the whole sort of postnatal period with professionals caused me to have PTSD. I was due to give birth in January 2020. I was admitted to hospital on Christmas Eve 2019 due to complications picked up on a growth scan. I was told that I would have to be induced by a midwife as they were concerned about my baby's growth. Once I was admitted, during the ward round, I asked the doctor for more information about the induction and what was going to happen. And he said to me, maybe you'll have your baby today, maybe you'll have your baby tomorrow, who knows, don't worry. And that was the extent of the consultation that I had. Once I got round to the labour ward the next day, I was induced. Once the drip was in, I was told that having intervention during childbirth leads to more intervention and that I should be made aware of this. I had a great fear of having an instrumental delivery. I'd heard absolute horror stories, and I told the midwife that under no circumstances would I ever consent to having forceps. That was my absolute biggest fear. During the labour, lots of things happened where I felt like I didn't have control. I wasn't given information. One example was that my baby's on his head, he was put on a heart monitor there because I wasn't keeping still enough for them to monitor him on my tummy, and I wasn't asked if I wanted that. It was just done to me. When I got to the pushing stage, his head was in the wrong position, and I was told that I'd have to go to the theatre. I'd known that his head had been in the wrong position since I'd had the scan the previous day, and I'd repeatedly said throughout my labour to the midwives when I was on the ward, what happens if his head doesn't get in the right position? And I was told, don't worry, it's going to happen, stop worrying. I felt that I was perceived as a very anxious first time mum. So when it came to the consultant coming in, examining me and telling me I needed to have forceps, I begged and pleaded with him to have a cesarean section. I didn't want to have forceps. I didn't want it at all. The consultant didn't tell me the risks of having forceps. All he said was, if I didn't have them, my baby would die, and it would be on me to live with that decision. I kept asking to have a cesarean. I can't tell you how much it distresses me talking about this and how much I didn't want to have forceps. They took my husband away, and the anaesthetist and the consultant said, I had no option, and this is what was happening. And I felt at that point it was a turning point for me. I felt that they'd taken my husband away, the one person that was advocating for me. I felt absolutely powerless, and them telling me that my baby was going to die. I felt like I had no choice. So I went to theatre. I had forceps. It was a really distressing experience. Once my baby was born, I wasn't allowed to hold him, and that it broke me. Not being able to hold him for a really long time. They didn't say why I wasn't allowed to hold him. I'd had blood loss, but it wasn't significant. I was awake. I was talking. I was asking to hold my baby, and I was told no. So I didn't get to hold him until I was into the recovery room. The whole experience, I felt that nobody advocated for me, nobody listened to me. And I know for a fact that if someone had told me all the statistics of having an induction, the dangers of having a forceps delivery, I would not have consented to it. And I don't feel that I did consent to what happened to me, because it wasn't informed consent. there was no discussion about all the risks that could happen. And having this birth, it absolutely traumatized me, and I had to have therapy to get over the experience. And what also didn't help was 4 months after he was born, I had a debrief with the midwife about the birth. And she told me, we don't tell you the risks of what can happen because we don't want to scare women. So if that's what midwives think, how can a woman ever make an informed decision?